If you had it to do over again, would you have done anything differently with this Sting program? I mean, I know you certainly had matches with Sting and TNA, but in WCW, this was obviously, for a lot of wrestling fans and certainly for the wrestlers themselves. I mean, if you weren't with the WWF, you wanted to be with WCW. And in certain times, people wanted to be more with Ted Turner's WCW than the WWF. And now you're with the franchise. That's just not what they called him, in the dirt sheets. I mean, he really was what WCW was built around during the dark ages. And even when they're battling the NWO, he was the face of WCW. Merch was flying off the shelves. And now you find yourself working a program with him. And I know you would hope that you could do that a few months prior with Hulk Hogan in July. It just didn't work out that way. And now you get Sting. It's third from the top. The main event that night was Chronic versus Goldberg in a handicap match. Go figure. But still, were you creatively satisfied, or did you think there was more to do? There was more to be done there.
Well, no, I was not satisfied, and more to be done would have been, again, hindsight's 2020, do less.
Yeah.
Sting's athletic ability and his, the dude is super over, like Teflon. Like, very few talents come along that you can almost do anything and just stay over. Like, my dad used to, hey, Lawler, you can't work with so-and-so too many more times. It's not good for the promotion. Sting worked with up and down and all kinds of different folks, and he still was the man. But this, and it's, we've talked it in so many different ways, but this era, and I'll just say when the wheels started to come off, and we talked about it on this show, when the year-over-year houses of Nitro, just the bottom fell out, and the substitutions and the no-shows and everything that went with it. I think long before Russo came around, you can just kind of look at, okay, and that book that came out, at some point in my spare time, it's probably got some charts and graphs, so there's a way to piece it together. Like, what was the real turning point where the bottom started to fall out? But this is the manifestation of lack of leadership, and that's why I was not creatively fulfilled. I don't think anybody was. Just the fact that you just said that Goldberg versus Chronic on Last in their version of the Super Bowl or Stanley Cup or NBA Finals, that says a lot too. It just was not run well. And, people think, oh man, WCW, Ted Turner, it's going to be around forever. This type of programming tells you, no, it's not.
I know there's a lot of people who listen to this who've decided they don't like Vince Russo. I'm not one of them. I think Russo took a lot of pride and I think got a lot of credit at different times for his ability to write compelling TV that didn't allow you to change the channel. Crash TV is what they called it. So as much as that may have worked, and I think, a certain section of the audience, or how about this, the majority of wrestling fans once upon a time seemed to really dig or be attracted to. I think if there was a criticism for Russo, it's that he never really understood, at least in my opinion, how to build to the big card. Like, how do we build to a WrestleMania and it's mano a mano? Like the WrestleMania that that Bruce always gives him a lot of credit for, like where he was kind of the lead guy, was WrestleMania 15. And that's kind of a forgotten show. It's not the best. Now, don't get me wrong. There's crazy visuals. Like we had the fucking boss man hanging from the ceiling, like hung. I mean, that's a wild visual, but as far as the actual matches, there's not a lot that I think people could get really, really excited about. So I say all that to say, I think this is an example of that. Like on paper, I don't think in a million years we would have ever seen Goldberg versus Chronic in a WrestleMania main event. And let's switch that up. As over as, say, the New Age Outlaws were, I don't think we ever would have seen Stone Cold versus the New Age Outlaws at the main event of a WrestleMania. And now you've got two of the biggest, most over acts, but I think Vince understood, McMahon understood, hey, that, and I know people make fun of, oh, how does it look on a poster? But maybe that's a tired old cliche because it works, right?
Well, Dave, go back to a 2-shot. Kind of, you always amaze me how you weave, and here we go down the show, because I just had this conversation with a mutual friend, and we were talking, and one thing led to another, and he asked me something, and I said, people want to gloss over what the real, like, just get into the DNA of what we're doing in here. And I do think, you said Vince, it takes a lot of bad rep. I think he is a really good, and in a lot of ways, as far as having the title, he's the OG of TV writers in professional wrestling. I think, as far as that. And then for years and years and years and years and years, oh man, who got the book? Well, Dusty was booking. Oh man, the book went here. Well, Bill Dundee went down to Watson. He was booking. So there is a a part of a successful promotion that you got to have a booker. You can call him matchmaker, booker, whatever it may be, but you got to have that role. I do think the magic between Jarrett and Jerry Lawler was, in a lot of ways, Lawler was a unique, like, hey man, I'm going to envision this match and this match. But my dad he loved to write. He loved to read books, fiction, nonfiction, mystery, right. So he had a lot of writing in him. But at the end of the day, and my old man taught me this, but I've studied the wrestling business history. The guy who leads the team is the promoter. And that goes like what you just said. And I think sometimes that's dumbed down. And so I try to stay away from it, but it is what's going to look right on the poster. Like, I think that's where Vince McMahon has no peers. How do you declutter everything, get all the noise out of the way, and take that spotlight and really focus on the only thing that matters? And that's what sells the tickets, period. So I just think there's a role for a booker. I think there's a role for a writer. And I think Vince, sometimes discredited bookers and promoters. And hey, bro, if you can't write, I get it. There is you have to have, but I think you had to have all three. But the promoter, and I think history proves itself over and over and over and over. And the promoter's the one whose ass is on the line. That if it does well, they make money. If it doesn't do well, they lose money. So when your own money's invested, nothing replaces the decision-making ability that gives it to you. I am, every day that goes by, I don't say that. Yeah. That's all that really matters, is what the promoter is putting out front to ring the cash register, or lack of.
Hey, did you know you can own for less than your current rent? We can help at savewithconrad.com. Stop throwing your money away on rent. You don't know any wealthy renters. Start building wealth for your family with my family at savewithconrad.com.